guys, Jenn Bruno Smith here from the High Rollers Club. We're so happy to have you. I am here today with an amazing guest. We're here today with Matt Johnson. He is a world-renowned magician and escape artist. He has over 30 years of experience in the entertainment business, has made escapes in more than 60 countries, and has over 500 million views on YouTube. Not only is he incredibly talented, but he's also just an overall inspiring person. So I'm so excited to share him and his story with you guys today. So hello, Matt, how are you?
Good morning, Jen. I'm good. How are you?
Really good. It's good to see you.
This is Yogi. This is our little guy.
It's great to see him too.
You know what? I can't be on camera without him being on camera. He's so, because I travel so much, he's so used to my wife Zooming me and also Zooming my family in the UK that anytime he hears Zoom going on, like he's got to be in the.
He's got to be there. He's got to be.
Yeah.
I love it.
But it's been a while. How have you been?
I've been really good. It has been a while. And for our listeners who can't see right now, Matt has his Pomeranian on his lap. Super cute. So
he's a Pomeranian / lion. Actually, his fur's grown in a bit now, but normally it's all shaved back except for his mane and his little pom-pom tail. So he's kind of grown out a little bit now, but
he's adorable.
He's our little guy.
He's a rugged lion. He's
a mountain lion.
Yeah, I love it. And, you said that you were traveling and do a lot of Zoom. And to fill in our podcast listeners, the way I met Matt is my husband and I were on a celebrity cruise this summer, and he has a show on the ship, and it was amazing. It was incredible. And so after the show, Randy and I went up to him and we're like, hey, you were amazing. And then we ended up hanging out and having coffee, and it was really, really a good time. So,
It's all, you know what, one of my favorite things about performing on ships or in theaters or whatever is meeting other people, and you mentioned the same thing. And I'm a big believer that whatever your vehicle is to talk to people or engage people, whatever that vehicle is, I'm a huge believer that our greatest gift is to empower others, is to lead people better than we found them, And so it was so nice to meet you guys, and you guys have got kind of that same following, that same principle, that same feeling about interacting with people. So yeah, it was great to meet you guys. I've always got more than enough time for anybody I ever meet. I think it's so important.
I love that. And you can tell that in the show, you can tell that in just your interactions with people after the show. It was really great. That was probably one of our, besides Pompeii, it was our second favorite part. It was really great. So I know some people might know you, some people might not. So tell me a little bit about your story, because you have this amazing story that's full of just perseverance and dedication, and you shared it with us whenever we, were having coffee, but I would love for you to share with our listeners, like, where you started. How did you start? Because everybody, an entrepreneur, is like, I don't know where to start, right? So
yeah. I think before I tell the story, because it's kind of long, I'll try and give you the short version. But I think the biggest thing to say, I kind of guess I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I was encouraged. My mom and dad were both self-employed in England, where I grew up. And so I was really encouraged to stay in school. But then once I finished school, my dad basically said, do what you love, right? If you do what you love, everybody always says, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But he kind of said to me, if you do what you love, one day somebody will pay you for it. Just, do what you love, and you'll never, you'll always love your life. No, it's not about money. And I think for me as an entrepreneur and self-employed individual, I think that's the key, really. Before my story, I think the key is to find what you love, because if you're passionate about it, you're going to put in the work and it won't feel like work. And I think that's the key to being a successful entrepreneur, being self-employed, being your own boss, is to be passionate about something. Because at the end of the day, most people work for money, to have the money to do the things they love, but they don't like going to work, right? And so I think if you do what you love first and foremost, so you don't make it about money, then you're putting the passion in for the right reasons. And ultimately, I think that is always going to get you to the goal of kind of a perfect life work balance where, you know, you're making money and you're doing well. I mean, I don't have to be a trillionaire or anything like that. I just have to make enough money to have a great life for me and my family, enjoy what I do, pay bills, and ultimately just love what I do. You know, friends of mine always say to me, what are you going to do when you retire? And I say, I live retirement. Why would I retire? As long as my hands work and I can still perform, I live retirement. So why would I ever stop that? You know?
I love that. I love that.
So my life, oh gosh, where do I start? Born in England. I'm going to try and keep it super short. I was born in the UK, started magic when I was, as a hobby, when I was about 11, 12 years old. My mom and dad hired a magician for my brother and sister's birthday party, and he told me about a magic shop in my local town. And so then I started going, and I started going every Saturday, 52 weeks a year. First one in at 9, last one out at 5. And I did that all through my teen years. So it kept me out of trouble, kept me out of off street corners, kept me out of drinking, you know, all that crazy stuff. And I learned up till being 18. And then, you know, I left school and my dad said, put an ad in the Yellow Pages. So I did. And I started a business doing house parties and stuff. And then when I was about 21, I got a job on North Sea Ferries, which is a ship that goes out of England to Europe. And it's kind of an overnight crossing. So you drive your car on, but there's cabins. There's cabins for you to sleep in. There's entertainment. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I saw an ad in a local paper for a job in Japan. And so I filmed the video and applied, and I got the job. And I was a magician for Hilton Hotel in Nagoya when I was, 23, I guess, something like that. And I spent 2 years in Japan, and then I met a Canadian girl, and I moved to Canada in 1998, and I've been here ever since. And then, you know, I started, hit the ground running, just doing shows and stuff. But because I was encouraged by my parents to really be an entrepreneur and to not just sit and you know, and it not be enough. What I mean by that is not financially, but to not just rest on my laurels, to really try and further my career. I was always encouraged to do that. So I just had a drive, and I kept doing that. And I was successful in Vancouver doing, you know, kids' parties and weddings and the odd corporate event and things. I did that for 20 years. But all through that, I got a dream, like to get on TV, to be on the biggest theaters, to work with Cirque du Soleil, to perform on Broadway in New York. I wanted all these things. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I'm 48 now, so it was only about 5 or 6 years ago, I thought, how can I be taken seriously? And I think this is a good lesson for entrepreneurs, is what steps do you have to put in place? So it's better to have a goal and then put the steps in place, right? It's like if you're looking at a high wall, you don't start trying to climb the wall. You figure out what steps you have to put in place to get to the top, and then you do that, right? That's the key, is to really figuring out what you have to do to get there. And then it's complicated, but it's really not. If you have the drive, it's just putting those things in place to get to the goal. And you'd be surprised if you just wake up every morning and you know, if you achieve one more thing, and I think the most important part is never be told no, never give up. I talk about that in my show, as you know. Kick down doors if they get closed, because a lot of doors are going to get closed. A lot of people will tell you can't do it, and just be relentless. You know.
So I love how in the beginning you were saying when you were younger, you were going every day from 9 to 5, and you were focused in and honed in. And something I found from successful entrepreneurs in all fields, because I've interviewed and talked with other entrepreneurs that were extremely successful in their field. And the one thing that seems to be consistent with every single entrepreneur is that level of dedication that almost verges on, I don't want to say obsession, because that's kind of a word with a negative connotation, but like that incredible, you know, dedication and perseverance to whatever it is they're focused on.
You're right. But again, going back, how I think that happens is doing what you're passionate about. Because if you do what you're passionate about, it's easy to be. Yeah, because you want to do it, right? There is never a day that you wake up and you don't want to do it. Even on your work, we have at the end of our day, our passions are our professions. And so we have days, I have days where I don't want to walk on stage, or something's happened in my life and I'm sad and I've got to make other people happy. But even on those days, it's the greatest tonic for me is walking out on stage and starting to perform, right? Because then it lifts my soul. And so I think even on those days, you found it, when even on your worst days, you're still happy to do it.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great quote. Yep.
That's the key. Is being so passionate. And I think a lot of us, for me, it started at 12 with a hobby and a passion. It was never, I didn't know at 12 years old I was going to be a professional magician. That never even occurred to me. But I knew it's what I wanted to do, you know. So, this is the other thing. I hear it all the time. People always say to me, because I really try and inspire other people on my journey. That's what
you do. Your show was amazing, but above, like, the magic was incredible. The escapes are incredible, but above all that, the emotion, like the connection and the emotional connection was amazing. And that was great.
It's really kind of you. And I think we talked about it on the ship. You know, that's the most important thing. Whatever you do for a profession, it's the most important thing is, as I just said earlier, is to inspire others, right? And the most important thing for me, people don't remember tricks. People remember people and the connections you make and how you make them feel. The tricks are like the foundation to the house, right? And the house is the emotions and the feelings you leave people with. You can't have a house without a foundation, but that's just the way I choose to perform. And so, because I always say to people, it's not about me. It's about everybody except me. It's about my family. It's about my kids. It's about my grandchild. It's about my dog. It's about my wife. It's about everybody I meet. It's not about, I've got what I need. I do what I love and I make a living. So I've got what I need. It's not about me. I'm not doing it for me. And I think if you can take that kind of selfish thing out of it and really enjoy it and really love it and really realize you're in a good place and you arrive at that place, then the rest is plain sailing, you know. And it doesn't happen overnight. I always see people who reach out to me and they'll say, well, you started as a kid going to a magic shop, you did that for 6 years, and then you spent 20 years being a magician, and they feel overwhelmed that they have to start today. But like I say in my show, today's the first day of the rest of your life. So start today, and then in 20 years, you'll be where I am or where you are. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think people get very overwhelmed. And, you know, what you were saying, going back to like the emotional tie and how that really relates to photography is like what we do when we can affect someone's emotions, when we, you know, produce art or work that speaks to people, that is when the business thrives. And I think that that's the basis of it is, you know, it's that emotional connection. Because so I remember when we met too, I was telling you that I had seen a magician not long before I saw you, who was really good and who had won things and was really great. And I left in the middle of his show because there was no connection for me. Like it was just, I was bored. I didn't feel that emotional connection, or it wasn't like just grabbing me like that. So there was such a difference between seeing that and then seeing yours. I was like, oh, he gets it. He gets it. That's it. So
yeah, and I think I'm not the best in the world. I never have been. I never will be. But I'm honest and I'm sincere with my performance. And you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on magic props and tricks and illusions, but it doesn't mean you're good and it doesn't make you a magician. Probably the same as you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on camera equipment, Absolutely. But it doesn't make you a photographer.
Same right? Exact thing. Absolutely. And I say this all the time to the people that I teach, that I'm not the best photographer. There are hundreds, tens of thousands of people that can outpace me and out tech me and out gear me. However, I produce a consistent quality product every single time. I'm giving my clients an amazing experience. I say what I'm going to do and I do what I say I'm going to do. Like there's that professional side, right? That other businesses don't have. And so there's so much more to it than just clicking the shutter. Just like you said, there's so much more to it than just.
And your clients, you know, I've seen your work and it's beautiful. And your clients are many times, these aren't professional models, and they're in a vulnerable position, and they're putting their trust in you. And then when you, like you said before, when you see the end result, they realize that no matter who they are, their background, their body or whatever, they're beautiful. And so you've given them that, and that is your superpower to inspire. And mine's the same, in a different vehicle. But the fact that you leave people so much better than you found them is worth so much more than money. And that is and will always be the key, because you can make so much money and you can buy so much stuff. You know what it's like. You buy something that you've always wanted, you get it, and then within a couple of weeks, you don't care about it anymore, because it's superficial stuff. And so that's the key. The key to success is not money. The key will always be your happiness and how you inspire the world around you to find that happiness. That will always be success in my eyes, not that, you know. And if you're lucky, if you do that and you do that with honesty and sincerity, then money will follow. There's nothing wrong with being able to have nice things. But it should never, ever be the driving factor in what you want to do for a living. It shouldn't.
Yeah, no, for sure. There are so many nuggets of wisdom here from you. I'm hoping that everyone watching this on Facebook and in the podcast is sitting there like writing this stuff down, because I feel like, you know, when you reach this level of, you know, when you reach a level of success in your profession, that most people gain these little nuggets, and just getting them before you reach that level of success is so important.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, this is such great information. Something you told me whenever we were talking last time too, if I'm remembering correctly. So you decided you were 4 or 5 years, or you were 5 or 6 years ago, you were like, I need to rebrand. I need to like remake myself. Right. And I find this so interesting, because you identified that the brand needed a shift, which is sometimes what happens when I'm coaching people. They have a brand and they're like, something's not working, but it can't be me. It can't be this. It can't be that. They can't figure out what it is. But you self-identified that maybe if I tweak these things or change these things, it would make my brand do better. So talk to me, I guess, about like what prompted that shift, and then how you, I guess, realized.
I think it's a really good question. Again, it was accidental brand switch. I have never been the kind of person, like I've never read self-help books, business books, corporate books. I don't know corporate speak. I don't, you know, if I need to compose an email and it be right for corporate, I'll get my wife to help me, because she's so amazing at all. She's in the corporate world. I just go with, I just have innate sense of what's right and what I need to do. I don't know how to vocalize it really. It just works. And I knew that after 20, again, I had a successful business. I mean, you know, in Vancouver, I was making a 6-figure income as a children's entertainer and wedding magician, just doing house parties. I mean, that's pretty good.
That's really good.
Yeah, for somebody who started doing card tricks, to get to that was really good. So I always understood, you know, what I needed to do to change my website, or if things were lacking, I needed to tweak some. I was always doing that constantly.
Right.
But it was just more innate, you know. But then what happened was, like anything, when you get really good at something, again, not the best, this is not an ego thing, but when you get really good at something to the point where you don't even have to think about it, what tends to happen is you start to become a robot. It becomes robotic, right? And if you become robotic, then you lose the thing that makes it special. If you know, I'm sure if you're shooting a shoot, there may be days, or not now, but there may be days in the past where you felt robotic. You can click the camera, but when you look at the photo, there's something that's not there. And it's an intangible thing. You can't touch, you can't taste, but it's a magic that just makes it glimmer that little bit more. Right. And it's the same with performing. I can walk out on stage, I can do my show, people love it, I get a standing ovation, but I walk off stage and I go, that wasn't good, because there's something not quite, it's a magic that's not quite there. And the second, I think the most important thing is you can do what you love, but once you've done it a long time, it becomes robotic. And the second you start to feel that, you owe it to yourself and your audience or your clients to figure out what you need to do to get back to the root and the passion of what you do, because that's where the magic is. And that's where everybody wins. And so I got to a point after 20 odd years where I'd literally be sat at home and my wife would say, where's your gig? And I'd say, oh, I don't know, Vancouver somewhere. It's going to take me about an hour. So I wouldn't even pack my case until 20 minutes before I left the house. I'd drive out, I'd do it, stop jokes, stop lines that I'd done in every show. They're happy, they pay me, I come back and I'm completely unfulfilled and I'm not liking it anymore. And I realized also that I was a squeaky clean, no beard, no tattoos, right? Kids performer and all that. And I realized I was trying to get on TV. I tried for 6 years to get on Britain's Got Talent, sending videos, and they never responded. And I realized in order to be taken seriously, if I want my goals of Broadway and theaters and headlining cruise ships and traveling the world, if I want that goal, I will never be taken seriously with the promo, the videos, the brand, the look, the magic I was doing, the stories I was telling. I'll never get there because I'm good here, but they're never going to take me seriously. So I had to change everything in order to be taken seriously. And it's scary because, you know, it started as a joke. I said to my wife, she said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, if it were up to me, I would grow a beard and get tattoos. So if I turned up at your door for a kid's birthday party, you wouldn't let me in. You know what I mean? and based on that physical look. And I said, that's what I do. So I have no choice other than to change. And so that's what I did. And you know, the nice thing is you can keep doing those smaller shows and kids parties as you kind of make that transition. Right. So you don't ever feel like you're in something and you can't change and you're going to lose your income. No, you can continue
to grow. It's growth.
To grow, but with the goal in mind. And so that's what I did. And it ended up really being the thing. What happened was it was about sincerity and honesty. I learned to become more sincere and honest and just present myself as who I am and who I always wanted to be. Yeah. I think I always said I can't have tattoos, I can't have a beard because I do these shows. Yeah. I have to present this image. But that wasn't really who I wanted to be. Who I am now is who I wanted to be.
You leaned into your authenticity.
And it's so much easier to present yourself to the world in any form as your sincere self. It's so much, right? So, and the strange thing was when I did that, my opportunities went through the roof. My pay, if you'd have said to me 5 years ago, oh yeah, I'll go do a Fortune 500 event, but I'll be in jeans and a t-shirt with my tattoos and my chucks on, and they're going to pay me more money, I'd have said, no, you got to be nuts. But what you become is an authentic, but you also become the only one. You become the only one. And if you're the only one, you won't get all the work, but you'll get the work that matters because you're the only one. You're unique, right? You can either try and please everybody by being this kind of all-round okay version. Oh, I take photos, I do weddings, I do this, I do that. Or you can niche down and be the only one that does it the way you do it. And then if that person wants you, they'll hire you. That's not a question.
There's so many parallels here. I hope everybody listening is identifying these parallels, whatever you do, there's so many parallels here for successful entrepreneurs. Everything you're saying, even though it's a completely different field, applies to us in the photography industry. We say it all the time because there's so many people that are shooting all the things, weddings and seniors and newborns. And they're like, I'm not succeeding. I'm not getting it done. And I'm like, that's because you're not specializing. You have to specialize. Right.
it's so hard, especially when you're self-employed. It's easy now, and when I say this, I'm going to be very careful, because my wife goes to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. She works for a corporate company. She's worked her way up in 20 years. She's got a great job. She's one of the few that started in a corporate job, but she absolutely loves her job. Right. So she's found passion, but it was more or less handed to her to start. It wasn't her passion. She chased after that. Right. So when I say this, I don't, the people that get up and go to work 9 to 5 to support the families and do a job they don't like, I have the utmost respect and passion. I'm not saying it's any less. It's even harder than what I do, because to do something you're not passionate about for your family and that's so easy to get stuck in that. It's hard, because ultimately, at the end of the day, money is important to put a roof over your head. It's so important, right? But if you, I've lost my train of thought, but if you do something that you're passionate about, yeah, I can't remember what my train of thought was, Jenn.
Right. I know it was going to be a really good story.
It really was. It was going to be enough. But
I know you were going somewhere really good with that.
Yeah, I think that the parallels are the same. When it comes to doing something you're passionate about and you love, whether it's photography, whether it's making cakes, whether it's babysitting, whether it's house cleaning, whether that's your profession, you start your own business, whether it's magic, whether it's being a DJ, whatever it is, the root parallels are the same. Our vehicle for expressing our art is different, but the parallels are exactly the same.
Absolutely.
Exactly the same. It comes down to passion and doing something you love. And that's easier said than done, because most people can't, they don't see a direct parallel from, well, I bake cakes for my niece nephews and they're amazing, and people always say to them, oh, you should do this for a living. Well, yeah, but I got to rent space and I got to pay for advertising, and it's not easy. And it is, but it is easy. It is easier than it sounds. Just start. You've just got to start. That's it.
So I remember you telling us that you had tried out many times, right? Before, for Britain's Got Talent, you had tried out many times, right? Before.
Mm-hmm.
How many times? I forget.
I just said 6, but I think it was 5 years. I think if I remember back, so the way it worked is I wasn't, sometimes, these talent shows will call you. If you're an established actor and you have videos out there, they'll find you and they'll call you and say, do you want to be on the show? Oh, cool. I did the audition process. So there's an online website where you can send a video and your details. And I did that. I was living in Canada and I did it I think it was 4 years in a row. And I never got a response. And then on the 5th year, I sent them a video of me doing a rudimentary version of the water tank escape. And by that time, I got a few more tattoos. I'd grown a beard. I was doing the water tank escape. And it all just came together and they said yes.
That's great.
But because I applied, I had to pay for everything. So I didn't have a lot of money and I had to pay flights, hotels, shipping of my props. It cost me like $6,000 to go there.
Wow. And
what a lot of people don't know is I was actually first accepted, even though I did it in 2018, I was first accepted in 2017. And I spent $6,000. I flew over there, and in rehearsals, so before you film the show, you do rehearsals. And in rehearsals in the theater, my water tank shattered. It was a malfunction. It just cracked and shattered with me inside. It flooded the Britain's Got Talent set.
Oh, no.
It got down production for half a day. I was devastated because I tried for 4 years. I was devastated, heartbroken. I came back to Canada. I was depressed. I was staying in bed. I was absolutely devastated. And then I got up one morning and I went to a tattoo shop. This sounds weird, I know, but I went to a tattoo shop and I got this tattoo done, Never Give Up. And then the date there is the date that it happened. And this is the water coming out of the tank.
Wow, I love
and
that.
Every morning that I brushed my teeth, I looked at that and I sent about 20 or 30 emails to Britain's Got Talent for the next year. And they never responded. And finally, they said, fine, come back. So in 2018, I had a new tank built. I went back and I got 4 yeses, standing ovation. changed my life. I became the #1 most dangerous act on Britain's Got Talent of all time, the #2 most viewed act of all time. And from there in 2018, changed my life. I did it. Italy's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, Late Late Show with James Corden, The World's Best with RuPaul, Faith Hill, Drew Barrymore, Penn Teller Fool Us, Wizard Wars. I was in Cirque du Soleil, Broadway in New York, headlining cruise ships, all in 4 years from now, because I never gave up. I could have given up any one of those 4 years. Then when I got there, I could have given up because my water tank shattered. I have had so much adversity, but I knew nobody's gonna do it for me. If I have a dream, until I'm in a box in the ground, I have to. And so many people told me, it sounds cliche, but people sat me down and told me, you're not good enough. People that I knew, yeah, you're a kids entertainer. You're never gonna do it.
Yeah.
But I kept going and I kept going, and I borrowed on my credit cards to pay these $6,000, $8,000 bills, to pay $5,000 for another water tank. I borrowed on my credit cards. I kept borrowing, and I just went for it. And you know what? And it worked out. So you cannot, once you decide what your passion is and you're going for it, you cannot give up. And you can't even say to yourself, what if it doesn't work and I've spent 20 grand? You can't. Right. You just can't. You either go for it for the rest of your life, or you don't. But at least if you go for it, if it doesn't work, you're never left thinking, well, what if it didn't? What if it didn't? What if it did? That's the worst, right? So there's a lot of risk, but there's a big reward if you trust in your passion and listen to yourself, your head and your heart, and you just go for it and don't listen to what anybody else says.
Absolutely. I get chill bumps every time you tell that story. Every time you tell them, like, that's it. That's the universe, right? Like that's the universe telling you that you are exactly doing what you need to be doing. Like, I feel, for my career too, I felt like everything leading up until I found boudoir was just like a warm up. It was just like the universe preparing me to do this thing that I've been doing for the last 4 years or so. And so I love that. Every time you tell that story, I just get chill bumps, because
they always say, Jen, you've heard this a million times, it takes 30 years to become an overnight success. And it's true. Now, I'm some people end up like Justin Bieber or Madonna or whoever, or Matthew McConaughey, and they become big celebrities. But here's what I'm going to tell you and your listeners, and I believe this to my core. If you'd have said to me 15 years ago, do you want to be rich and famous? I would have said yes. Now, you couldn't pay me $1 million, $2 million, or $3 million to be rich and famous, because I can honestly tell you, sitting here in my skin on my couch, that I'm 150 million% happy, and I'm not super, super rich. I just I'm rich in life, and I do what I love, and there's not a second I get up and I don't want to do it, and I make a good enough living to with my wife to support us and have a great life. I travel the world and I meet beautiful, inspiring people like you and your husband, and I inspire others. And, when I'm on ships, I become a little celebrity for that moment. But it's taught me, when you're on a ship and there's 3,000 people and then everybody's seen your show, it's taught me what it must be like to be a celebrity 24/7, because people want to interact with you. And I love it on ships, but when I come home, I get to be me and nobody says anything. If I had that 24/7, 365 days a year, I think there's no amount of money in the world that could ever, because I'd be working every second of the day. So I've reached, it doesn't mean I still don't have goals. It doesn't mean I'm at the pinnacle, but I've reached a point in my life where if this is it, if this is what I have for the rest of my life, I'm 150 million% happy, but it's taken me 30 years to get here.
Right. There you are.
And that's the key. That is the other key. It's not about money. We can all only drive one car. We can all only sleep in one bed. We can all only go on one vacation at a time. It's not about money. It's about the enrichment of your life and your friendships and your
connections that you form.
things money can't buy. It's about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I know we both kind of mentioned it a little bit being on the ship, but I do want to talk about celebrity and about like the ship, because I think people might be a little intrigued also about like what it's like to be on a ship for a longer period. Because I mean, I was so seasick on that ship.
Well,
But, I got so sick. Yes, I was so
really?
sick. Yeah, I was sick. I was sick. And like the medicine I took made me sicker. But anyway, but being on the ship, like, you know, it's, first of all, Celebrity Beyond is just this incredible ship, and it's beautiful and it's new and everything is top notch and customer service is amazing. And I have only good things to say. And Captain Kate is like Captain Kate, like I totally fangirl her every time I talk to her, saw her. So, but what is your favorite part of, besides the performance part, what is your favorite part of being on the ship and being just that community and that culture is amazing. Like,
yeah, you know, I mean, first of all, Celebrity, I mean, they are my employer. But I'm glad I've worked on other ships, and I am really honest when I say that Celebrity is a fantastic company to work for. I am so lucky. You know, the contract that they give me is amazing because it means I can be on there for 3 weeks and then I come home for 2. I go on for 3 too. So I have family time. I can make a schedule with my family. I can see my kids and my grandchild. I could, you know what I mean? So they're so good to me. And I'm signed up right now for 2 years till the end of 2023. Now I've done other jobs where I go away for 3 months with Cirque du Soleil and I tour and, like I said, Broadway. And so but at this point in my career, this is a really good thing for me because I don't have to do the crazy, dangerous escapes. I don't, you know, I get a lot of rest in between my shows where I get to travel the world and see all these beautiful places. You know, I'm very fortunate. I get a guest cabin on the ship because I'm what's called a guest entertainer. So I get on and I do my show and then I'm a guest. So there are so many pluses. One of my favorite things on there, I mean, well, performance-wise, I love being able to perform in the most beautiful state-of-the-art theater,
yeah.
which it really is. If you've never been on any of the celebrity ships, but if you've never been on Celebrity Beyond, I really encourage you because it's state-of-the-art, you know. Oh, sorry, let me just, hang on. How do I do that? Somebody's trying to call me and now it's done this weird thing. I don't know how to get rid of it.
I can still see you and hear you, so I think we're good.
You can still see me and hear.
Yes.
Okay.
We're good.
So, you know, I get to perform in these beautiful theaters. Another plus is meeting great people. I mean that sincerely. I meet people from all over the world and they share their stories with me and, you know, and their passions and things like that.
Sometimes you end up on podcasts.
And sometimes I end up on podcasts. It's not the first time. So yeah, and I make new friends and you know, and then I travel the world and there's always great food and, you know, there are so many positives. There are so many positives. I couldn't, you know, and all the crew. I mean, we say all the guest entertainers say this on there, but we mean it sincerely. That the crew are amazing. There's 1,200 crew on that ship, and they work 7 days a week, sometimes 11 hours a day.
And they're so happy, and they're so
happy because there's a good camaraderie on there, and there's a good, you know, Celebrity is a great company to work for. They look after people, and I think that you want to talk about hard work. 7 days a week, 11 hours a day. That's hard work.
They're amazing. And you know what? We can tell, my husband's in the other room, but we can like tell you still the stories of people that we talked to. Cause even like the servers that we would talk with them and they would share their stories. And it was just amazing. I loved like just meeting people from all over the world. It really is a big family. And between the guest entertainers too, we all support each other. We all watch each other's shows. And really in the grand scheme of things, there's a handful of performers that will tour around the celebrity ship. So you always end up seeing somebody you know what I mean? You know, what's funny, I don't think we told you this, is one of the singers in the show where she's from Wilmington, which is really close to us.
Really?
She's from Jennifer.
In the cast shows.
Yeah, in the cast show. She's from only like 20 minutes away from us. And we
Yeah.
were like, oh my God, you're from Wilmington, Delaware. We're like 15 minutes north of or south of there. It was crazy. Like such a
Yeah, but the cast, I've seen cast shows on ship. When we say cast shows to all your watchers out there, by cast show, we mean the shows that are permanently on the ship that are like a production Broadway show. And the people in that show, singers, dancers, acrobats, they will live on the ship for 6 to 8 months at a time and do these 3 shows a week. And so the cast shows on the Beyond are the best I've ever seen.
they're insane. They're so talented.
Yeah, and that's not just necessarily a reflection on the performance. The other ships have great performers. It's what they've done around that with the technology stage, and it's all that. Best I've ever seen. Best I've.
Impressive. What is your favorite port? What is your favorite port that you've been to?
So on this ship.
Let's do this ship first. Yeah.
Okay, so this ship right now is in the Mediterranean. So it only does Italy, France, Greece, Spain. So what is my favorite port? Okay, I'm going to give you a couple.
There's so many, I know, right?
Yeah, one of my favorites is Santa Margherita.
I know, I love that.
In a pass of Portofino right next to it. And I think I told you, but I like to go there, sit at the cafe, which is super expensive, and have 2 cappuccinos and a tiramisu and a little cigar, which I shouldn't, but it's a vice. And I sit there and I look out at the port, the bay. It's just beautiful. Yeah. One of my favorite ports, if it was in Greece, it would probably be Mykonos. And if it was, I actually, just before I got off the ship this time, got off a port for the first time and can't believe I've never got off before. And it was Malta.
Really?
It was, have you been there?
I haven't, but it sounds.
Oh my, I've never seen, Valletta in Malta, the town, never seen anything like it.
Really?
It's clean, beautiful. I think it's English Commonwealth, British Commonwealth. It was like Rome, but all in a walled city and it clean. It was incredible. I'm so annoyed I've never got off before.
That's on our list now.
Malta, Valletta. Yeah, I don't know a lot about it. I know it's an island.
Right.
Valletta is the town. I hope I'm saying that right, but just spectacular. Absolutely spectacular.
I'll have to put that on our bucket list. There's so many places now. That's the
favorite port. Yeah?
What'd you say?
Where's your favorite port?
Oh gosh. Well, I would have to say Naples, because I totally was like, Pompeii has been on my bucket list to go there since I was a child. So that was probably my favorite. And then Santa Margherita was probably, because I'm Italian. And that was the first time I'd been in Italy. And so I stepped off the boat and I'm looking around and I'm like, I wonder if like my family was here at some point.
Yeah, probably. You probably own you probably have a share in like a Italian villa somewhere. You know, I mean, Santa Margherita itself is beautiful. And the thing I love about that end of Italy is it's so pretty. And you know, there's no graffiti, and I not that I don't love Rome, but the outskirts of Rome, there's quite a lot of graffiti, and you know, yeah, it's so pretty. I don't know, it'd be hard to say. One of my favorite ports of all time is probably Bermuda, and anybody that knows me knows that about me. But I was very fortunate because I did the crossing from New York to Bermuda with another cruise company. And it would be 2 days crossing, 3 days docked in Bermuda, 2 days back. And I did that for a couple of years. So I knew every inch of Bermuda.
Oh, wow.
Like a second home. And I always rented a little motorcycle and took off. Highly recommended. One of my favorite ports of all time.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, it sounds amazing. I don't think we've been to Bermuda, but we've been, you know, to the Caribbean many, many times. And I lived in Puerto Rico for a while. So I've been I know the Caribbean pretty well. But yeah, I haven't been to Bermuda, I don't think. So that'll go on the list.
That's a to-do, and you can just fly right in there.
Yeah.
It's magical. It's expensive, but it's magical. Bermuda is amazing. Yeah.
You know, with kids, the hardest part is the kid coverage, is finding people to watch the tiny humans for an extended period of time. So that's, once they get a little older, we can take them and it won't be, you know, right now they're so little. I'm worried about them like jumping into the ocean. I don't think they would do that, but you know,
How old are your kids?
9, 6, and 3.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, Bermuda's totally. Is it? Well,
I
it's
mean, from the
kid-friendly.
ship, jumping into the ocean from the ship.
Oh yeah, no, that's
My
that would be a
husband's
problem.
laughing.
Yeah, that'd be a problem. That would be more your bad parenting if your kids were jumping off the ship into the ocean.
I know. Well, I worry about like, this is like, I don't know, this is like mom anxiety or something, like, you know, them stepping on top of a chair and then the chair tipping over or something, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that
Yeah.
isn't necessarily them jumping, but them just doing kid things and then it ending in something bad. So,
But there's so much to do on the ships. I don't think jumping off the ship is necessarily probably in their mind. I think you'll find if they're jumping off the ship, you got bigger problems.
It's true. It's the mom anxiety. It's like the worst case scenario anxiety where you're always like, what is the worst that can happen?
I know. Listen, I totally know. I've like raised 2 girls. I totally get it.
Yeah, I can relate to that. This has been so fun though. Thank you so much for meeting us and talking. I know our listeners gained so much from this. It's just you're always so inspiring and just you know, really, really talented, but inspiring above that talent. So it's so good to see you and so grateful that we met. And I'm really appreciative of our friendship. It's been just really great knowing
Me too. Listen, I can't wait to see you guys again. And you're always welcome anytime. You've only got to reach out. You know that. And anytime, any questions or whatever. I love being asked because I really honestly can't believe quite a lot. I do get that imposter syndrome where I think, how am I even on this stage? Or how am I even in a position where people are asking me for advice? It's like, I don't get it. And I think it's just because I'm here just because I do for a living what I love to do. That's it. I don't think there's any secret sauce. I just am passionate about it and I love it. So I think after doing it for so long, you just arrive at that place where you do it for a living. But I still stand on a stage and think, how the heck am I here? Like it never, ever goes away, Yeah,
no, same. I have the same feelings often. And I think that is just the dose of humility that the universe keeps you grounded. And I think that is, also leads to more success because once you lose that, your gauge changes and you lose the fire. So I think that imposter syndrome is sometimes a little bit healthy. So I don't know, but yeah, this has been so great. Thank you so much.
No, it's my pleasure, Jen. It's great to see you guys again.
Yeah, of course. So, hey, if people want to follow you, they can find you on Instagram at.
So my Instagram, Twitter, Facebook are all the same. It's 3 words, like Matt Johnson without a T, Johnsson, like Matt Johnson. And I don't mean like thumb up. I mean, you can't believe how difficult it gets sometimes. 3 words, like Matt Johnson, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, also TikTok, but I hardly ever post there, to be honest. But all those, and I post every day, wherever I am in the world, or if I've got theater shows coming up, if there's a TV show coming up, when I'm with my kids, my grandbaby, my wife, I post every day. So that's the first way. The second way is my website is urbandeception.com, urbandeception.com. And on there's a live Instagram feed. And so actually it's where my mom keeps up with my career that way. She goes to my website and because she's not on Instagram. So she goes and sees the live feed. And so I always, and it's got all my videos from TV shows I've ever done, escapes, they're all on there if people want to check them out. And I think that's it.
Perfect. So make sure you can follow him on Like Matt Johnson on Instagram and check out his website. It was so wonderful having you. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, high rollers, dream big and hustle harder.